Hello, it's friendly neighborhood game master Zach Call here, back with another book report. Not sure what to call these things, except I know they aren't a review. This is a boiled down scripted version of my live system read-throughs in an attempt to make the video shorter and more digestible. I've pre-written a script, which I don't do very often, but I'm hoping it helps me develop a point of view from the beginning and make sure you know my thoughts without having to hear me ramble for an hour. This book report is on the game Salvage Union from Leyline Press. It describes itself as a post-apocalyptic mech TTRPG about a group of mech pilots trying to make ends meet in a broken world controlled by corporations. Pulled that description straight from the opening paragraph of the introduction. But as I continued reading about the world the developers created, I got a slightly different vibe that I was actually way more interested in. So here's my personal one-sentence pitch of Salvage Union. On the fringes of a post-apocalyptic world controlled by oppressive corporations, mech pilots must explore the wastes and return home with enough salvage to keep their independent communities alive and safe. After reading through the over 300-page rulebook for Salvage Union, I had one large prevailing thought. Salvage Union feels very simple at its core, but has a lot of options that bring complexity and customization. Nothing says a simple core like Salvage Union's core mechanic. Roll 1d20. That's it. No attributes to add to the roll, no dice pool you need to collect. Simply roll a single d20 and the number of the die is the result. Many abilities describe what happens specifically based on the die roll, but they all follow this general formula. On a 20, you get an outstanding success. You gain an additional bonus to the action you were attempting, and if it was an attack, you get a bonus effect or deal double damage. On 11 through 19, you succeed. Congratulations. On a 6 through 10, you're faced with a tough choice. You can succeed with consequences for when you really want to achieve your goal, or you can choose to fail without any additional consequences. On a 2 through 5, you fail and face a setback. When you're attacking, you miss your target. And on a 1, it's a cascade fail. You suffer a severe setback. Once you get a hang of this result mechanic, this is essentially all of Salvage Union. There's no additional roll to determine damage. There's no mechanic to handle advantageous or disadvantaged situations. There's a small handful of ways to reroll the d20 that are all tied to who you are as a pilot, but that's really it. With a bit of research, it turns out this core mechanic is pulled from the Quest RPG, which is offered through Creative Commons. The How to Play section of the rulebook all fits on 4 pages. 2/3 of the rulebook are chock full of pilot options and mech options that are used to create, customize, and advance your PCs as you play through your campaign. One area I haven't touched on that I think makes Salvage Union really special is your pilot's home, the Union Crawler. Union crawlers are essentially large walking cities that traverse the wastelands. If you're playing in the default campaign mode, you start with a hamlet-sized crawler that houses around 100 people, including your pilot's families, support staff, bartenders, etc. Before beginning your campaign, the entire playgroup comes together to design and create their Union crawler, choosing the type and different bays that your crawler begins with. As the main source of scrap retrieval for your crawler home, the PCs are responsible for the upkeep required to make sure the crawler doesn't deteriorate in the harsh environments, and as more and more scrap is acquired, the crawler itself can grow and level up, eventually growing to mega city size to home over 25,000 people that your party is responsible for keeping safe and healthy. Which brings me to the pilots. Like I said at the top, Salvage Union is very simple at its core. It adds complexity and customization through self-contained abilities represented by pilot abilities, equipment, mech systems, modules, etc. Mechanically, pilots are very simple. Each pilot starts with 10 HP, 5 ability points to activate their abilities, and 6 inventory slots for various equipment your pilot can carry. Players will then pick a class for their pilot, choosing from one of 6 core pilot classes, each providing a range of abilities that can fit different playstyles. Each class also has a narrative archetype and a role they usually occupy in play. to help inspire players. Pilots can train during downtime activities to purchase additional abilities from their class ability trees. Salvage Union doesn't use a leveling system per se, opting for straightforward ability trees with each tree inside a class providing unique and interesting options both in and outside of combat. As pilots advance and hit a total of 6 core abilities, pilots can further specialize into an advanced version of their base class or a hybrid class, where they can learn new high-power abilities that share some narrative and playstyle similarities with a neighboring base class. I say neighboring base class because the 6 base classes are arranged in a wheel-like pattern that determines shared ability trees and which base classes have access to which hybrid class. As you can see in the diagram here, the 6 base classes form a pentagon shape at the center of this wheel spoke shape. An engineer has 3 ability trees: forging, mech tech, and mechanical knowledge, and 2 hybrid classes they can eventually specialize into: fabricator and union rep. If an engineer pilot wants to eventually specialize into fabricator, they must first have 6 of the 9 abilities in their base class, and 3 of those must be in the forging tree, which leads into the fabricator hybrid class. Fabricator is also connected to the neighboring base class hacker through the electronics ability tree. An engineer fabricator would function differently than a hacker fabricator, even if they share some of the same fabricator advanced abilities. And that's the most complicated part of Salvage Union, truly. And all of those decisions are made during downtime, ideally even between sessions where a player can review the book and weigh their options without the pressure of time constraints. Mech customization is a more straightforward purchase system using scrap as a resource. Higher level chassis, modules, and systems can all be purchased through an appropriate amount of scrap, and all that construction also happens during downtime. Nothing terribly complicated, just choices to make your mech match your playstyle and role on the team more pronounced and powerful. There's 30 different mech chassis and over 150 add-ons that your pilot could have access to throughout the course of a campaign. Even the ability to have and store multiple chassis on your crawler and pick which one to use for any given mission. On the GM side, called a mediator, one thing I find really interesting about Salvage Union is that since the upkeep on your Union crawler and the advancement of your mech is all paid for with the same resource, scrap, it's remarkably straightforward to motivate your party toward a goal. Hauling scrap is the end goal almost every time the party leaves the crawler. Then it's just up to you and your imagination to figure out what to put between the crew and their desired scrap. Luckily, the world that Leyline Press has created is full of interesting things to challenge your crew. Wastelanders looking for scrap for themselves, pilots of the oppressive corporations, a hive mind nanite-based alien entity called the Meld, aberrant creatures changed by hard apocalyptic environment, or even a bio-titan. Bioengineered amalgamations that even the toughest pilots would think twice about facing. At the end of the book, a region is mapped out for you and includes a scenario hook that you can drop into any campaign. Lots of quick reference tables that I would print out and always make available, make sure I had handy when running a session. And if you purchase the digital bundle from Leyline Press's website, the rulebook is bundled with 3 pre-made campaigns that you can run out of the box or use as inspiration. Built on a simple, single core mechanic, Salvage Union feels fully fleshed out with an appropriate level of player-controlled customization with predetermined options that don't rely on the mediator to invent new ways for their players to play. The setting is described enough for you and your playgroup to get started, and helps hold your hand to create your own region of the world and fill it with your own ideas without needing to feel like you're designing your own game. While some tables may wish that they rolled more dice more often, my theory is that groups playing Salvage Union would find that the core mechanic keeps play moving along nicely. The core mechanic, however, does rely on the mediator to come up with appropriate setbacks and consequences when the dice rolls low. If you're going to be running Salvage Union and are more used to a binary pass or fail dice mechanic system, it may take some practice to get the hang of dishing out setbacks, but I wouldn't let that keep you from taking a crack at running this game. If anything, running games with a variable resolution mechanic like this one, powered by the Quest RPG, helps you learn that core GM skill, and will make your games with a binary resolution mechanic like D&D even better, as your narration will help drive the story forward in interesting ways. I appreciate that the developers didn't try to write 60 pages detailing out their setting and including it in the book. They could have created a history timeline of the apocalypse, named all the different corporations and their arcologies, described the various trade systems they're all involved in. They could have drafted up a list of NPCs with detailed backstories and paid artists for a full body shot of each evil CEO. But they didn't. They clearly have a vision in mind, but they only describe just enough to get your creative juices flowing, and then provide guidance and pathways on how to create your own version of Salvage Union's Earth. Maybe they flesh out the setting with more specifics in the pre-made campaigns, but I'm grateful to every game developer and publisher that separates their detailed lore and their rule systems mechanics. I don't do ratings. I just read a rulebook and try to determine if this game is for me. And while the only real way to know is to run it myself, I am short on time to run sessions and play groups that are interested. But my computer and bookshelves are full of TTRPGs I want to read. Luckily, I've read a lot already, and I have strong opinions on what I enjoy, so I feel pretty confident when I know that I would like something. I would love to play or run Salvage Union. And truthfully, I think it's everything in the rulebook coming together for me. Sometimes I don't necessarily care about the default setting because I already have one in mind, and it's all about the resolution mechanic and the character creation process. In Salvage Union, every bit I read through was interesting and only made me want to try it out even more. It feels like just the right balance of options for you to choose from and freedom to create your own story. I also love the game's inherent political beliefs. The Salvage Unions are socialist communities, with each bringing to the community according to their ability and each receiving according to their needs. They're pitted explicitly against the oppressive corporations, who own and run seemingly idyllic cities protected from the wastes, but control their populace through indentured servitude and debt that will never be paid off. The apocalypse itself? It wasn't one all-defining event that destroyed the world. It was little by little, selfish choice by selfish choice, that made the denizens of Salvage Union have to face the wastes. The developers also call out that the authoritarianism and exploitation committed by the corporations, they're framed as abhorrent intentionally, and that Salvage Union is explicitly not for fascists or anyone who holds hateful beliefs. They follow that through by making sure that every pilot begins at the same place, regardless of any physical attributes, inviting every pilot to choose their pronouns and to be referred to with a chosen call sign. The book itself is full of art of humans of varying shapes, colors, gender presentation, and age. So to wrap this up, I would run the hell out of Salvage Union. If what I described in this video sounds like your type of fun, go to Leyline.press and buy the PDF. Just a heads up, the PDF is only available in a digital bundle that includes the 300-page rulebook, 3 pre-written campaigns. That whole bundle costs about $65 US. You can also get a physical copy of the rulebook. It includes the PDF. It's a little cheaper at about $60 USD. It's definitely priced as a mainstream, completely developed rule system. The way they've bundled and are selling their products is definitely strategic, and I think it's worth the cost. Click on the link in the doobie-doo to get your Salvage Union books. If you've run Salvage Union and have stories or thoughts, I want to hear them. Let me hear about them in the comments below. I'd also love to hear if you like this more concise scripted video more than my stream of consciousness read-throughs. Be straight with me about how you feel about the format change in the comments. You can also hit me up on Threads. I'm at ZachHallNC. I'll be back soon with more TTRPG content, probably about 2D20 and my currently in development Stargate hack. Thanks for tuning in. See you soon.